Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Student First, Athlete Second, IG Live. I'm your host, David Watts, and we're very, very glad that you all are joining us today. Today is September 15th. We have a special guest, Mr. Greg Camarillo, who's going to be hopping on in just a second. Thank you all so much. So much. We look forward to having our guests come in on the show every week to talk about their stories of adversity, of work ethic, of success, of failure, this, that, and the other. So thank you all so much for joining in. This is episode 39. So for those that are looking to see some other good episodes, check it out on the David Watts Consulting YouTube channel. 39 episodes today. So some great guests, some great stories. Current and former student athletes, professional athletes, folk who work in sports, whether it be collegiate or professional sports. It's our goal to inspire, to inform, and motivate student athletes. So I see our guest. He just popped in, Mr. Greg Camarillo, and enjoy the show. There he is.
Hey, what's up, David? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Doing real well. Thank you for having me.
All good, man. I appreciate the time. First and foremost, I want to shout out somebody who introduced us. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Frank Harris, a professor at San Diego State University. Shout out to my frat brother, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He made the connection, man, and I'm really appreciative of that. So let the audience know where you're tapping in from.
Yeah, I'm tapping in from San Diego, and that's that connection. Dr. Frank Harris was my professor in graduate school. Now a friend, was originally my professor. Yeah, I'm glad we made that connection, man. I've already learned a lot from you.
Man, iron sharpens iron, baby. That's what it is. That's what it is. So we're going to get started in just a second. I'm going to go over the intro, then I'll go read your bio, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So sit tight, all right?
All right.
Thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. I'm your host, David Watts. This is episode 39, I believe. So we started this thing back in January of 2021, and our goal this year was just to share stories. You know, we want to be able to help young student athletes, want to be able to help inform, inspire, and motivate student athletes. So the guests that I bring on the show, I'm very strategic. I know they have great stories. I know they have great advice. You know, their experience of being student athletes, of working with student athletes is something that I know the young people, parents, coaches, administrators can all benefit from. So without any further ado, our featured guest today, Mr. Greg Camarillo, was born and raised in the Bay Area. I think he was born in the city of Redwood City. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Indeed,
Born in Redwood City, raised in Menlo Park.
Got you. Okay, all right. Greg attended Menlo Atherton High School in Atherton, California, where he was a letterman in football and basketball. In football, he was a 4-year letterman, and as a senior, he was first-team All-Peninsula Athletic League honoree and an All-San Mateo County selection. In basketball, he was second-team All-Peninsula Athletic League selection as well. He turned down an opportunity to attend Harvard and chose to attend Stanford, where he walked on as a punter. Redshirted his first year in 2000 and later played wide receiver for 4 seasons, totaling 46 receptions for 614 yards and played on special teams for the Cardinals. He earned all academic Pac-10 at the time honors for 3 years, graduated with a degree in product design engineering. After a very productive 5 years on and off the field as a student athlete in the Pac-10, he went on to an 8-year NFL career where he played on 4 different teams from 2005 to 2012. The teams include the Chargers, the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New Orleans Saints. Hell of a career, my man. Hell of a career. Much respect. Post-football, Greg returned to San Diego to get a master's degree in educational leadership from San Diego State University. He joined the University of San Diego Athletic Department in 2014 as a graduate student intern in charge of creating the alumni mentoring program. His role has grown since, as he is now the coordinator of student athlete development, a position that includes academic counseling and creating personal and leadership and career developmental opportunities for the student athletes on the USD campus. A man of principle, a man of faith, a husband, a father to 3 beautiful little girls. Everybody I've spoken to about this brother has raved about his character and his work ethic. So with that being said, I'm honored to have him on the Student First, Athlete Second IG Live. Without any further ado, I introduce to you Mr. Greg Camarillo.
All right, Dad. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for the kind words. And I'm glad you called the right people that would say something kind about me and not the other folks.
Indeed, man. Well, let's get started, man. Let's talk about the beginning, man. Like, I love talking to folks who also share the experience of being from the Bay Area. Obviously, you said you were born in Redwood City. I spent some time in Redwood City growing up as well. You said you grew up in Menlo Atherton as well. So talk about growing up, man. Talk about your family, something that I didn't know. I didn't know you were Jewish, so definitely talk about your Jewish faith, man. That's something, man, that I'm really interested in hearing about. So let's get started, man. This is your mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's dive in. So yeah, let's jump right into the to my background. So my mother is Jewish Hungarian, and my father comes from a Catholic family, and he's Mexican. So I'm not a religious man, but I was raised in and around 2 different religions. You know, I celebrated Christmas and I celebrated Hanukkah in a non-traditional way, but it gave me a great chance to learn about different cultures. You know, Hungarian Jewish people are very different than Mexican people, but I got the beauty of both cultures, and I also learned to accept those differences early on, knowing my mom and dad came from very different worlds. It's something I've always been very proud of, and something that I now instill in my children, who my wife is Black. And so you combine them, they're just a total combination of different ethnicities, of different backgrounds, and different religions. And I've always taken pride in that. And I try to teach students that too, like soak up that knowledge from different backgrounds, soak up those knowledge from different people, because the more perspectives you have, the broader you are going to be as a human being.
Absolutely, man. That's one of the things that for me growing up in the Bay Area, I am also multiracial. I'm African American as well as Mexican, so classically defined as Blaxican. So I like that term, right? So growing up in the Bay Area, man, I always felt that I had the best of both worlds, and I always saw myself, whether it be in the Bay Area, and it was just that appreciation of different cultures, learning about different people, and that's one thing that is something that I think as a society, we're all different in many different ways, whether it's religion, culture, different foods we like, this, that, and the other. I think we need to go from a mindset of like accepting differences to like really appreciating differences. And I think once we are able to do that and we instill that in our young people, I feel like that divide that we've had, that is like you can feel it in the air, man. And it's we don't want to say when the start happened, but it was very recent, right? And I feel like to be able to have situations where we're bringing folks with different cultures and different backgrounds, it's just a beautiful thing to hear their story. So I appreciate you sharing that. Talk a little bit about growing up in the Bay Area, about being a student athlete. I understand you played Pop Warner for the Redwood City 49ers. You know what I'm saying?
I did.
Talk man. About growing up in the Bay Area and being a student athlete.
So I mean that's actually an interesting story. But this might be the first ever IG Live between a Blaxican and a Mexi Jew. So I like that combination right there. But just so I grew up in West Menlo Park. In a predominantly white area, not a rough neighborhood at all. Like it's just a suburb. Suburban life. And then I convinced my parents to let me play Pop Warner football in I think 5th grade. And I went and played for the Redwood City 49ers. And I showed up, man, and I was this little soft dude from the suburbs. And I jumped right in there, and I got my butt handed to me, man. I was getting smacked. I had never played contact football before. And I learned real quick that I needed to toughen up. I hadn't had enough bumps and bruises in my life, and football provided those for me. And so Julian Edelman's dad was actually my first coach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was a steep learning curve, man. And I didn't like it at first. I wasn't in shape. I wasn't ready for football. I didn't know what football was going to give me. But my parents told me, look, we've paid however much money for you to participate this season. You're going to finish this season. And that was my first lesson on commitment, man. I had a rough first couple weeks, but, my dad told me, you committed to play football. You're going to finish the season. So I finished the season. I learned about football. I grew a little bit tougher, but that was actually the end of my football career until high school. So I played 1 year at Pop Warner and then started again in high school.
No, that's big, man. That's big. And were you growing up? Did you play any soccer? Did you play any other team sports?
Played soccer, played baseball, played basketball. I mean, pretty much anything that I had access to, I was going to play, and I loved it all. I enjoyed all of that.
That's very big and important to me because in today's time, man, like there's this concept of like sports specialization, and you got all these young males and females that are like identifying a sport and just sticking to that, and it's something that I feel for some student athletes it works for them, but for the majority of them, I feel like I feel like it's to their detriment because it allows a lot of burnout, repetitive injuries and this, that, and the other. So I really encourage multi-sport athletes at a young age. I understand at about the high school level, about 9th, 10th grade, you got to buckle down a little bit and you can't, be playing as many sports as you would like, but because they're conflicting seasons. But I just think it's important for parents and student athletes at an early age to play different sports, use different muscle groups, and to really find out and discover what you really, really like. I think that's important.
And have fun. Go find the sports that you like and have fun doing them. And if you like playing basketball, but you're better at football, keep going until you have like signed a scholarship for football and they don't want you playing two sports. Okay, I get that at that point. But I see, I work in college athletics. I see a lot of high school and even younger athletes think, I got to get a scholarship. I got to get a scholarship. And they think that if they just stick to one sport and learn that sport, that's the answer. That's not the answer. If you ask college student athletes today how many sports they've played, it's all over the board.
You're right.
And so I 100% agree, man. Play different sports, get different experiences, get different coaches, get different teammates, because that's going to all come together at some point. You can focus on a sport later on, but for now, just have fun and play some different things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk about what kind of student you were growing up in elementary school, middle school, and obviously you're pretty bright, but was this something that was pretty instilled from your family or, where did all that come from?
Yeah, from day one, that's from my family. So my whole family works in education. My dad was a professor my entire life. My mom a middle school counselor. So I grew up in a household that emphasized education. And it was always do your homework and then you can go play sports, or let's make sure we handle academics first and then go play your sports. But it was never a high pressure academic family. It was put your nose in the book, do your best, get the best grades you can, and that's good. It wasn't like you need all A's or you're grounded. It was give it your best shot, study, work hard, put your effort into school and things are going to work out. And that was, I was blessed to have that as a background, parents that really believed in that educational foundation, because as we talk about my story, we'll learn that education was the reason I got to play more sports.
No, for sure, man. I think that's so important, that educational foundation. I think we're in a society where sometimes education is secondary. And I think a lot of that messaging, unfortunately, is coming from parents. And the reason why I say that is because I see it all the time, man. Like, parents going gung-ho about getting this trainer and playing for this AAU team and just spending a lot of money and a lot of attention on the athletic side. But on the academic side, the kid is struggling with C's. Yeah. So as a parent, I challenge you, for those parents that are listening, I challenge you that if you're going to go all in with athletics, you got to go all in on academics as well, because if you don't, it's going to send your student the wrong message that sports are more important. Yep. And that is a very, very bad thing. So definitely. So let's fast forward a little bit to high school. You went to Menlo Atherton High School. Talk a little bit about your experience in high school. Were you involved in a bunch of extracurricular activities? What kind of student were you? How were you involved on campus?
Yeah, so, fortunately, I had an older brother that's 3 years older than me that kind of paved the path for what it looked like of a successful student athlete to get to college. And so
that's important.
Big Bro was involved in, the student government, was the president of the school. And then I watched him go on to the University of Pennsylvania and lead a successful academic career. So I had this blueprint paid for me. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
saw what he did and the opportunities that allowed him. So I followed. So I started in student government early, ended up being student body president, involved with clubs like Mesa because I was interested in engineering. Just try to, different honor societies, try to get into everything I could. One, because it helped, like things are supporting you becoming a better person. But two, knowing that the more well-rounded you are, the more experiences you have, the better you look for a college. I mean, it makes you a better person, but it also makes you a greater candidate for getting into colleges. And so I followed Big Bro's lead, and it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot connecting with different teachers, connecting with different coaches, and it bought me some opportunities into college.
I like what you said, man. That term of like being well-rounded and being balanced. I think that's something that is so, so important. LeBron gets credit for that same more than an athlete. And I think it's something that is so relevant in today's time. I think, like we talked about before, there's just an overemphasis on athletics. And I feel sometimes the other things, quite honestly, are probably more important. And I feel like, at the high school age, talk a little bit about how you were able to have balance and like the time that you had, because there's a lot of student athletes that have aspirations to have internships over the summer or be involved in student government service or this, that, and the other. But their excuse is I don't have time with my sport and with school and studying. So how did you make time to make sure everything fit?
Yeah, I mean, if what's holding you back is I need to get a job so I can afford, being a student athlete, I understand that. And that is a solid reason for not having time. But if that's not the reason, you need to get involved. And it's just a matter of making time, because we all know the school day is not changing. You have the same school day as everybody else. But what are you going to do after that school day? Yes, you go to practice and you're tired, but there's student government that you can get involved with at lunchtime, clubs that you can get involved with at lunchtime, after school programs. I would go to Mesa after school and we'd work on engineering things. And then there's off seasons. And I know if you play 3 sports, there's not much of an off season, but there's down times when you could be more involved and less involved. But there's always a way to squeeze that in there. And you just have to make time for that. And it's really a matter of what do you value. If you are valuing spending 2 hours on Madden when you get home, well, that's the problem. If you're valuing, let me get some more experiences so I look good as a good college candidate and a well-rounded human being, that's the difference. So what are your values? Are you valuing video games, or are you valuing trying to get more experiences?
Talk about some tools that you might have used in high school, because it sounds like you had like structure. You talked about you had the blueprint with the Big Bro, this, that, and the other, but were there tools? Like, were you a planner guy? Did you have schedules written out, a vision board? Like, what are some secret ingredients that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah.
The young folks today.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. The tools were just get stuff done. So, you got homework, bang it out. Do your homework. Get it done, get it done. Don't go to practice, come home, chill, and then you're tired and exhausted and can't do your homework. As soon as you get a minute, knock out that homework, chill later. And then the second one is take advantage of the people around you. Like every high school, every college, there are people that want to help you. Literally their job and their desire is to help you. Find those mentors, find those coaches, find those teachers, because they will help you. And those people are connected. They have resources. And if you are a genuine human being that works hard, that tries hard, and you connect with these folks, they got your back. And if that's a college counselor that can help you find the right college, if that's a coach that can help you get recruited, whatever it is, take advantage of those people around you.
No, that's huge, man. That's great advice. That's great advice. For those that are just joining us, our featured guest today is Mr. Greg Camarillo, 8-year NFL career, Stanford wide receiver from the Bay Area, currently works as an educator at the University of San Diego. A fabulous story. Thank you for joining us and tuning in. So I really appreciate you. Dialing back to your senior year, Greg, talk a little bit about your recruiting experience. It must have been somewhat, like
Non-existent. Yeah. Yeah.
interesting, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
interested in hearing this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a good high school athlete, but I was not the great high school athlete. Like playing Division I college it wasn't even on my radar, to be honest with you. I just wanted to keep playing football. I loved football. I enjoyed playing football. I had the passion to keep playing football. And so I was going to try to do that wherever possible. And so I got admitted to some Ivy League schools, and I had talked to recruiting coaches, but nobody was like, yeah, come play for us. It was just like, okay, if you get into school and you come, maybe there's a jersey for you. I got one school that I took a recruiting trip to, D3, Washington University in St. Louis. I didn't really have an intention to go there. I just wanted to take a free trip. And so I did. And that was my only recruiting trip. But it was good. It was good to see a new campus, to learn about a college, to see what else is out there in the world. And it just happened to be through connections that I got connected with the Stanford coach, Tyrone Willingham. I had already been admitted there. And my dad was a professor there. My legendary Coach Parks at Menlo Atherton knew Tyrone Willingham. So the worlds were coming together. I brought my old school VHS recruiting tape with me to my meeting, popped it in. And I played D end in high school, and I was like 100 and maybe 75 pounds at that point. So that wasn't going to happen. I had some decent receiving stuff on there, and then I would punt the ball real far. He's like, Greg, why don't you, come walk on as a punter? I was like, that sounds great, but, I love being a receiver too. And he basically was like, why not? Give it a try. We'll see what happens. So because I handled my business in the classroom, had already been admitted to Stanford, and then, like I mentioned before, I used those resources around me, got connected with the coach, and found myself a walk-on spot at Stanford University.
That is huge, man, because it's a lot of that groundwork and framework you probably weren't even aware you were doing, but being involved in the clubs and being connected. Coach Parks, I used to hear stories about him, man. My older brother played for Coach Parks in the early 80s, man. Coach Parks, rest in peace, Coach Parks. He used to tell, man.
Hey, man, Coach Parks will toughen you up quick, that's for sure.
Exactly, right? So being able to, have that reputation of being a leader on campus, and being able to, be confident, and being able to have people like vouch for you is something that's very, very important. And when you go and you say, hey, look, I've already been accepted, coach, give me a shot. Like, wow. And then once you had gotten the shot, you had basically said, I got the choice of Harvard or Stanford. I mean, Stanford's in your backyard, really. I mean, it was probably no brainer, right?
Yeah, kind of. So I mentioned my dad was a professor at Stanford, so I had been in and around Stanford campus my entire life. And in high school, I was looking for something different. I wanted to get away for a little bit, just because I'd been around there my entire life. I literally grew up on Stanford Avenue. That's the street that my parents live on. So I had been admitted to Harvard, to Penn, and then I went on a college trip to go look at those campuses and see what that was like. And so I ended up meeting some friends in Miami at the end of that trip. And so, I'm an 18-year-old dude. I'm thinking Miami the whole way. So I'm packing my shorts, my tank top. I brought a little hoodie. And I didn't know about Boston in April. It's still cold as hell. So they have, I think it was 6 or 7 a.m. football practice on a cold, frozen field in Boston. And here I am standing there with my hoodie, a California dude, not used to the cold. And I was like, I can't do it, man. I cannot come out here and play football in this freezing cold weather and be the best me. And so that was the deciding factor. And I thought to myself, well, one, I can't do that cold. But two, if I go try to play at Stanford, I have to be okay with the fact as a walk-on that I may spend my 4 or 5 years there and never see the field. Like, that can happen. And I thought that was okay. I figured I would give myself that challenge. And if I never saw the field, oh, well, but let's give this a shot and try to go play big football.
Nah, that's huge, man. That's huge. Talk a little bit about your experience on campus when you first got there, 17, 18-year-old. What were you most prepared for, and what were you the least prepared for?
Yeah, the least prepared for it, day one of training camp. So we had a recruiting class of 18, and we had some studs in this.
Who'd you come in with?
Teo Johnson, Amon Gordon, Jared Newberry, David Bergeron, OJ Atogwe, like a lot of guys that ended up playing in the NFL. Alex Smith was a tight end for a while in the NFL. And so the difference between a walk-on and a recruited guy, like a highly recruited guy, is immediately apparent day one when we do combine testing. So like it could not have been the worst showing for me. We started out with a 40 time, that was my worst feature as a wide receiver, was I was slow. And these dudes are out there in little biker shorts, 6-pack guns, and I got a little extra flab on me from eating hamburgers and all that. And so I'm immediately humbled. You know, I'm like, damn, dude, these dudes are legit. How am I going to keep up?
Yeah.
We do a 225 bench test, and so everyone else goes first because I'm hiding in the back trying to not be seen. They're banging it out, and I'm like, damn, I don't even know if I can get 225. And I'm like, all right, I got to give it a shot, man. And I lay down on that bench, and I get about 2 inches off my chest. Coach lifts it up, puts on 185. And so day one, man, just totally humbled and realized that I got to work so hard if I'm going to end up on this field. Because I was given this opportunity to be a walk-on, but that was the extent of what I was given. I will have to earn every practice. If I ever saw the field, I was going to have to earn it.
No, I don't necessarily think a lot of people understand how difficult being a walk-on is. Like, as you said right away, you're not coming in with a lot of fanfare. You come in not ever knowing if you're ever going to have the opportunity to play this, that, and the other. Myself as well came in as a walk-on. I actually left my scholarship at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and said, you know what? I don't want to have any regrets. I want to play at the Pac-10 level. I want to be home. And it's a situation where I always tell people I went from the penthouse to the outhouse. No table, no nothing, right? So that walk-on mentality is something that not everybody's cut out for. Everybody's cut out for. And I think it's important for student athletes to really get a feel of how walk-ons are treated before you elect to do that, whether it's preferred or this, that, and the other, because at some universities, some walk-ons are never really given a chance.
Yeah.
It's practice dummies holding up the bags. And
I've been there.
It's very important to know that the program that you're in is going to give you an opportunity. And the only way you find out is asking. And that's one of the things that I'm always telling my student athletes is you always have to find out how it is.
And the track record. Has a walk-on been in that program and played before? Because that has happened at Stanford. We've seen walk-ons come on and be successful. So I knew there was a path. It was just a difficult path.
Got it. So talk about your welcome to college football moment. What was that moment? Or was it that moment at the combine?
Yeah. I mean, that was welcome to not being as athletic as recruiter guys moment. A couple moments, man. So like you mentioned, being a practice dummy, my first job as a punter / receiver was to help guys practice blocking punts. And normally that's like a ball on a stick. So they just hold a stick and a ball and go like this, and guys put their hands out. I was as valuable as a ball on a stick. So I would punt and dudes would block. But, I mean, it never happens smoothly. So dudes are just, like, I'm punting the ball and they're just smacking me, flying into me, diving into me. And it was frustrating. But as a walk-on, I mean, you just got to bite your lip and keep rolling. So that was one. And then scout team, you run cars. So your card says run up and run a dig right across the middle of the field. And we just happen to have All-American safety Tank Williams, and any safety named Tank, you know what he's going to do to you.
He's going to bring it like
he's going to light you up. And so I would just go out there and get lit up and then have to pop back up and go back and do it again. But it toughened me up. And going against high-level competition makes you better. Going against scrubs is not going to make you better. Going against dudes that are real, that's going to make you better. And fortunately, on scout team, I got that opportunity to play against some great guys, and that made me better.
Yeah. I can't emphasize that enough. What you said is competing against guys that are going to make you better. I mean, there are some guys out there that don't want to compete with the best and they want to be the best, so they never get challenged.
Yeah.
So the first time they get challenged is when they step on a college campus.
Yeah.
And if the first time you get challenged on a college campus, that's a rude awakening.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rude awakening. So for all you cats, doesn't matter what sport, male, female, find the best players in your area. Train, work out, 7-on-7, whether it's, scrimmage and hoops, or do whatever you got to do, because you want to get used to competing. You want to get used to getting popped and getting, knocked down, because a lot of people don't ever get knocked down in high school and they never know. And when they get to college, it's like, I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah. And just watch. If you go find somebody at a high level, watch what they're doing, because you're going to learn a lot just from watching somebody compete at a high level.
Absolutely. Talk about your greatest memory, your greatest moment as a Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah, I've got two. So my whole goal as going in as a walk-on was to get on the field, to have a stat. And so as a walk-on, this must have been my sophomore year. It was a game that was, I can't remember who it was against. The game was out, we were either winning or losing by a whole lot. And they were like, screw it, let's put Greg in. And so it was like 3rd and 3. They put me as a slot receiver. And I'm so nervous, man. I lined up. Like, as a slot receiver, you should probably be a yard off the ball, just, to get a proper formation. For some reason, I was like 3 yards off the ball, almost in the backfield. I run my route. I catch the ball. I'm so excited. I got 2 yards on 3rd and 3. Here comes the punt team. I'm running to the sideline. Like, I didn't do my job very well, but I didn't care, man. I had a stat. I was a walk-on and had a catch. That was like goal achieved. I was excited. And then another exciting moment was I got a scholarship. So we had a coaching change. I got a chance to get like a fresh start, prove my worth. In a new coach in the middle of training camp, we were stretching, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I got some good news for you. You're on scholarship." And then, just the excitement of that, knowing that your hard work is literally paying off. So I had 3 years on scholarship, which is, well over $100,000 at Stanford.
Yeah. To
know that my hard work paid off, another like major goal was accomplished. It just felt good.
Man, I get emotional hearing that story, because I had one that was very, look at me, man. I'm emotional hearing it, bro, because.
Let me hear your moment, man. Let me hear that scholarship moment.
Very similar, man. Like, just went from scout team, this, that, and, luckily I was able to get on the field a little bit, special teams, this, that, and the other. Going into camp my senior year, we had camp at Cal up in Turlock. So we went out there and, team meeting. And out of nowhere, there was about like 2 or 3 of us that got a scholarship, man. It was the greatest moment of my life, man.
Yeah.
Like, I bet on myself and I won.
Yeah,
and
that's
I would
awesome.
never, ever, ever not bet on myself just based on that experience, man. And it's just, man. So whenever I see these videos on social media, when guys get the scholarship in front of their teammates and everybody's going crazy, I always basically say, man, I give them a little shout out, I respond, welcome to the walk-on the scholarship club, man. Keep your foot on the gas, man. It's special, bro. I'll never
Absolutely.
That.
And I love seeing those videos too, because it's your dreams coming true right there on video. I love it.
Man, that was my Heisman.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Man. So talk a little bit about like what for you was your greatest regret during your college experience?
My greatest regret, fortunately I don't have too many, but my greatest regret looking back is not expanding my circle, my social circle out of the people that I knew. So my social circle was basically football and then like the friends I met in my freshman dorm.
Yeah.
And then, you always hear about like creators, I think of Instagram or maybe Snapchat, like Stanford dudes. And I'm like, why didn't I interact with these dudes? They might have been nose deep in a computer science lab coming up with these things, but I should have met more people. People come from all over the country. They have all different interests, all different backgrounds, but I stuck to my crew when I had an opportunity to meet all kind of different people. And that's the one thing I would have changed. I would have expanded my social circle and just, it could be uncomfortable, but just go meet some new people.
That is important, man. And the way things are structured at the Division I level, especially football, is so intense, time, this, that, and the other. I don't think they foster that type of mentality. For oftentimes, a lot of schools, a lot of programs, they like to put the student athletes in a student athlete dorm. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't,
Yeah.
I don't feel like they foster, hey, reach out in the community, get involved, this, that, and the other, because they feel that it gets, or it has a possibility or a tendency to get in the way of practice or grades,
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. So I think what you said is so, so important. And guess what? It can happen at the high school level. It can happen at the high school level. So
absolutely.
You get used to it at the high school level, and you get to college, and it's one of those things you always want to be able to have friends and contacts outside of your sport. And I think that's what you're sort of alluding to. I mean, these folks that you go to college with are going to be the next CEOs. They're going to be the next, you know, movie filmed. I mean, you probably went to school with Issa Rae or something, man. I mean, golly.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's, I mean, you're going to meet some cool people that way, but you're also just going to make friends that way. You know, it doesn't have to be the next CEO. It could be your next homie. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Expanding that social circle can do a lot for you.
Indeed. You know, I always say, especially in high school, you got a platform, you're big man on campus, big woman on campus. A lot of folks want to be friends with you because you're the popular student athlete, whatever, right? You need to be friends with them, and it needs to be like, you know, not anybody using anybody, but if there's somebody that's in your class that you know is pretty intelligent, that has an interest in technology or this, that, there needs to be that mindset of you fail yourself if you go in and you leave with only the same people that you were friends with at the beginning that you started with. I think that's important. That's a great concept. That's a great concept that you bring up. What type of advice would you give a current student athlete outside of the advice that you had for a current collegiate student athlete, possibly in the NIL or, you know, with the name, images, likeness thing? What advice would you, or do you give now on your campus at USD?
Yeah. I mean, similar to what I would give to a high school student is soak up the knowledge around you. You know, soak up the resources and the people around you. So I work on a college campus, and if you stick to just athletics, you're missing a lot. Like, there's people that want to help you with your career. There's professors that want to help you get into graduate school. You know, there's mental health counselors that want you to be the best you. There are people surrounding you that want to help you, that can help you. Take advantage of them, you know, and it's one reason why I'm an academic counselor now is I had a good relationship with my academic counselor, you know, and people like that are there to help you. No one works in education to get rich. No one maybe the president of a school might be about it, but nobody is there trying to get rich. They're there because they like that job, and soak that up, use that, you know, talk to those people, interact with those people.
Soak it up like a sponge. That is it indeed. That is it indeed. Shout out to some of my students at Geffen Academy at UCLA. I see you, Mickey. I see Will Hamilton. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys are well. Enjoy the Jewish holiday tomorrow, and I will see you on Friday. Dean Watts will miss you. So fast forwarding a little bit, successful 5 years at Stanford. Talk about preparing for the draft. That had to be stressful. Trying to figure out in your mind, am I going to get, you know, am I going to get selected, free agent, this and that? Talk about that experience, man. It's stressful for a lot of cats.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give you the shorter version. I could probably spend an hour just on that transition, but end of 5 years, our last 3 years, we won 10 games combined. Like, one good season is 10 games. We won 10 games over 3 seasons. So I still had a fire to play. Like, I wanted to keep playing football. I even went and tried out in an arena football league. Didn't end up staying because I hadn't graduated school. It didn't make sense to me to go. The contract was for $26,000 to go play for that and not graduate school. That didn't add up. And so I said, why not give the NFL a shot? Let me just see what happens. And I would have played CFL. I would have played NFL Europe. Whatever opportunity there was, I would have played. Fortunately, like I mentioned before, that strong recruiting class, we had several guys drawing NFL attention. So scouts were coming to our pro day. So I just gave it a shot. You know, I trained with teammates. I trained with our strength and conditioning coach. I got very prepared. I was in great shape. I did my pro day. And then kind of, I mean, education gives you opportunity. So because I had already been admitted to Stanford, I got to play at Stanford. Because I was playing at Stanford, I got exposure to James Lofton, a Hall of Fame NFL wide receiver who had played at Stanford, was then the receiver coach for the San Diego Chargers, and whose son was my teammate. So he was watching our games, and he loves to give Stanford guys chances. So he calls me up, and he's like, hey, man, tried to get you a free agent contract, couldn't do it, but we want to invite you to training camp for a tryout. And like if you mentioned at the very beginning, it was like 40 or 50 something career college catches. Like dudes now have double that in one season, and this is my entire career. So I had no expectation of playing in the NFL. My combine numbers weren't that great. I ran a 4.62, I think it was, as a 40, which today is great for an offensive lineman, not a receiver. But I got my opportunity, man, because I worked hard, because I handled business in the classroom. I got a chance to go try out. And that's all I needed, man. I just needed my foot in the door. I needed a shot. And fortunately, I was given that shot.
Now, what was that welcome to the NFL moment for you?
Oh, man. So right there in that mini camp, nervous as hell, man. So you go into the locker room and like so the free agents, the trial guys have these portable little dinky lockers that are ready to be thrown out anymore. But like there's Drew Brees, there's LaDainian Tomlinson, there's Antonio Gates. My mind is blown, man. And I'm just excited. I got a jersey that says Camarillo. Like this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. I thought I'd be in the NFL for 3 days. So I go out there, we go through our drills, things are looking good. We go with receiver DB one-on-one. And in my very first route, I get jammed out of bounds by another free agent DB. And I'm just watching my dreams like just fade. You know, like it was embarrassing. I got my ass kicked. I don't know if we can swear in here. I got my rear kicked.
All good.
All right, there we go.
They hear it at home and they hear it on TV. It's all good.
I mean, it was a moment like, get it together. You know, this is your shot. Don't let that define your shot.
Yeah.
So that was my awakening to get it together. Fortunately, I had 5 more practices and I got it together. I got invited back to camp. And then I spent a year on the practice squad. The next year, my real welcome to the NFL moment, I knew I was going to have to be a stud on special teams to get out there and make a team as a 5th, 6th wide receiver. And I played with Kasim Osgood, who was literally a Pro Bowler in special teams. So I watched him. He's a big dude, like 6'4", 220 or something like that. I'm like, man, I got to do what that guy does because he's really good at it. And he busts wedges. And so game 1, season 2, this is going to be my year. I'm going to be this stud on special teams at 6'1.5", 195 pounds, which doesn't really add up. And this is when they had the 4-man wedge. So 4 300-pounders, 1,200 pounds of man
bless
coming
your
at
heart,
you.
brother. Bless your heart.
My job was to run head first into this gap right here. So between 600 pounds. And, hey, man, whatever you want, coach, I got you. Head first. Bam. Head first back out of it. It's like hitting a brick wall, man. I crumbled. I fell down. The whole pile fell on top of me. So I got credited with a tackle because I was laying on the ground, beat up. But I mean, some guys laughed at me. Some guys patted me on the back. But coaches literally showed it in film. This guy wants it. They showed me as an example as a guy who wants it. I did not have the physical skills to go busting a wedge, but if they wanted me to do it, I did exactly what they said, and I did it. I got a tackle, and it proved to the coaches that if they need Camarillo to do something, Camarillo's going to do something.
There's a lot of people that say they will run through a wall, but
I tried. I tried.
But the thing is you try.
Yeah,
most
absolutely.
Cats, nah, man.
No.
Nah.
So, you know, that bought me opportunity, man, and I made the roster that year, and that launched my career.
No, that's important, man. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that for you, I think having that opportunity to play special teams in college sort of got you comfortable. You knew what it was about. I think it's important anytime you're a guy that if you can be on special teams, especially if you're not a quarterback or something like that, but if you're a skilled position, if you can be on special teams in high school, in college, it's the quickest way to get on the field as an underclassman.
Yep.
And quite honestly, at the NFL level, they're looking for guys for that 53, that 53-man roster. Talk a little bit how nerve-wracking it was for you year in and year out not knowing about the 53, like always thinking about the cuts and this, that, you know, the Grim Reaper, this, that had to be stressful, bro. Like, talk to us about that.
That's the worst. I don't miss that one bit, man. That's when people say, what do you miss about football? That would literally be one of the last things on my list. I mean, it's your future, your whole future, your career. And when football ends in the NFL, like you don't go to the park, put on your pads and go play with your homies. It's over. Like your career is done. And so, I mean, in training camp, it's literally every practice can affect your future. Every rep can affect your future. And then on cut day, I mean, you're looking at the depth chart. You know when you're getting reps. You know when you're not getting reps. You know when you got a shot. But I mean, you also know who cuts people. They send like the intern or you know the low level coach to go grab guys.
Bring your playbook.
Man, you see them in the locker room. You put your head down. Hope they're not coming for you. And so my first year, I got cut and then put on practice squad, but I was kind of expecting it. My second year, when I made the team, I'm thinking my phone could ring at any time. You know, at any moment on cut day, it could ring. I walk in, we had a lift at 2. So if you make it to that lift, you're on the team. And so I go into the locker room at 1. I'm looking around like, all right, they're letting me get dressed. I'm like warming up. No one's getting here. I walk through the training room to get to the weight room, and the trainers are looking at me like, okay, he's still here. And I walk into that weight room and I start my lift, and the coach says, the strength coach says, congratulations. And I was like, oh man, I made it, man. It was like that scholarship moment.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
it was all that hard work, you know, finally coming true. And in the NFL, like they could have literally cut me 12 hours later. But it was just that moment that at that moment they thought I was worthy of being on the 53-man roster for doing things like running headfirst into the wedge. It was, again, dreams coming true. I had no plans of playing in the NFL, but because I was given opportunities and capitalized on those opportunities, I made it.
Man, 8 years, 4 teams, man. When a lot of people never thought, maybe yourself, you knew the odds were, you know, stacked against you, man. That's that's respect, bro. That's
Appreciate
respect.
It, man.
I mean, going from that first combine day at Stanford to where you were an 8-year NFL career, I bet you there were a lot of teammates that on that day that showed up that were like, how the hell did this happen? It's only the grace of God. It's work ethic. It's being a good person. Being at the right place at the right time, man.
Yep.
That's all God, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm a believer that your hard work is going to create opportunities.
Yeah.
And you need to be prepared for those opportunities. And so we're gonna back up a little bit here. But when I was a walk-on punter, our senior punter was not doing a good job. And I wasn't practicing punting. I didn't want to be a punter. I wanted to be a wide receiver. And so in the middle of practice, coach just got fed up with the punting. The punter had shanked one, blows the whistle, sits him down. Camarillo, you're in. And I'm just running in from the sideline. I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't know what was going on. He gave me 2 shots to punt to become a starting punter as a freshman walk-on.
Wow.
I kicked 1 line drive and I shanked one. Sends me right back to the sideline, brings the starter back in. And so here was this golden opportunity that I had not been prepared for. I was going to be a freshman walk-on playing in a game, and I was not prepared. And that was the moment that taught me this can't happen again. Like you keep working hard, another moment's going to come up. You have to be prepared for that moment. So I got my shot in the NFL, and I made sure I was prepared for it.
Man, that's a hell of a story, man. That's because, hey, for a lot of cats, they never get a second chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a hell of a story. You know, if you knew then what you know now,
yeah,
how do you feel, or how do you believe your career would have been different?
You know, I don't think it would have been that different, to be honest with you. I was very fortunate to have that coach, James Lawson, that I mentioned, who was, I mean, he was a Hall of Fame receiver, so he clearly knows how to play receiver, but also a great teacher. Yeah. So he immediately emphasized the importance of studying your playbook, of knowing all the different positions as a wide receiver. And if I had a different coach, I might not have learned that lesson right away, but I learned that lesson right away because of him, and that stuck with me. So, I mean, especially as a backup wide receiver, you need to know what's going on, because if the Z receiver goes down, you could jump in. X receiver goes down, you jump in. F receiver, jump in. shit, a tight end goes down, I got you. I know what the tight end's doing. It even got to a point where I could draw what even some of the running backs were doing. So I learned, I was taught that skill of studying football and being ready to do whatever. Same thing with special teams. You need L1, L2, L3. I got you. Put me in, coach. I can handle business. And that's what bought me opportunities. And so, and so we go to a team meeting on offense, and Cam Cameron, who was our offensive coordinator, liked to put people on the board under pressure and have them draw up plays. So here I am, a second-year guy, a backup wide receiver, fighting to make the roster. And he's like, Camarillo, come up. Same guys are there. Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, and I'm at the board. And he calls up a play, and this play comes back up in my story later on, but he's like, trips right, fly, 525, F scat Ernie, or F something like 525 scat F Ernie. And so he says, ready, break. You run up to the board, you got a pen, and you got 20 seconds to draw up the play. And because I was taught the skill of learning the plays, boom, boom, offensive line, this receiver, that receiver, running back. I think I got the running back wrong, but I could draw up literally what everyone's doing except for the offensive line. And that proved the coach, all right, if our starting receivers go down and we need Greg at any moment, he knows what he's doing. And that gave them the confidence to put me on that 53-man roster. And that was that you're going to be given an opportunity, take advantage of this opportunity. So here I was in front of Hall of Famers taking advantage of my opportunity.
Solid, bro. That right there, I believe a young person's going to hear that. And I think that's going to inspire them to not only learn their position, but the positions around them. And I think that is so, so important, not just in football or any other sport, but life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more you can do,
Swiss Army knife.
The more you can do. And it happens with any job. If you go into a job and you only know what you do, you're only going to get the opportunities for that. But if you know other things, you're going to get more opportunities. They're going to give you more work. You're going to be a good employee, a good teammate, whatever it is. And so to continue that story, so and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I end up getting cut from the Chargers because they drafted 2 receivers, so there was no more space for me. I end up in Miami with Cam Cameron, that coach that trusted me the first spot, and I'm a backup receiver. We're losing 1 million games. Come game 14, so we're 0-13. I'm the 4th wide receiver. I get sent into the game. That same exact play is called that I drew up on the board 2 years earlier with the Chargers. Trips right, fly, 525 scat F Ernie. And it's like, it's serendipitous. That is literally the same play that got me a job on a roster. It's being called in the game. And I got my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th NFL catches on that, scored a game-winning touchdown because coach knew if we need a backup wide receiver, Greg is ready. And that day came when they needed a backup wide receiver. I was ready. They put out there, I scored a touchdown, and then that really launched my career to being more than just a special teams guy, but to being a true NFL wide receiver.
Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Wow, man. That's impressive, bro. That's impressive. Transitioning on a little bit post-NFL career, how was it for retirement, man? Like, I know a lot of guys struggle.
Yeah.
Not playing the game. They've been playing the game for, 10, 12, 15 years, ever since they were, young. How was it for you in retirement? Was it something that you had to get adjusted to? Did you have a plan? Were you working towards what you were going to do? Or how was it for you?
Yeah, so I had a plan, and there was struggle. There was both. So, as an undrafted guy, as a free agent, you never know when your career is going to get in. So, I mean, at every step of the way, and I'm going to give a shout-out to Stanky Tank 27, Philip Ting, who just joined, who told me, and this will always stick with me, my very first summer in the NFL when I got signed to the team, you're going to have the best summer internship of anyone out there. Thinking, and we both thought, I would never make an NFL roster. This would be a great one summer. So I was mentally prepared for my career to end at any time. So I was exploring different career options. Every offseason I would explore. And I had a great support team. By the time I retired, I was married. My family was very supportive. But what the hard part was, I was 30 years old and felt like the peaks of my life were behind me. Like, how in these next, let's call it 50 years, how am I going to do something to compare to this excitement that I had already passed? And then suddenly I'm no longer a football player. You know, part of my identity is gone. The structure of a day-to-day is gone.
Yeah.
The goal of a day-to-day is gone. Like every day as a football player, you wake up, how can I be a better football player?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly I'm waking up and I'm like, the hell am I going to do today?
Yeah.
You know, and that was odd. And so there, you know, there were sleepless nights where I was trying to figure out, who am I? What am I doing? What's next? Am I ever going to feel that same excitement again? But fortunately, I was passionate about working with student athletes. I went to graduate school as my transition.
Yeah.
And it also bought me time, bought me 9 months before I actually started school and committed to school with that little bit of the back of my mind. If an NFL team calls, I can still answer that call.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to give up.
Yeah. Now that right there is important. Like having a plan, even though not every plan is going to work out, but having ideas of what you can fall back on. You mentioned you went back to school, you got your master's degree. That is something that is so important because it gave you time to sort of figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that a lot of college cats, when they're student athletes in college, they're not thinking about that is part of the reason why you do well in college is because if you do well in college, it's going to give you opportunities or better opportunities to get into a grad program. And I think for a lot of student athletes, I myself, when I first started, there's that mentality of, you know, the college diploma is not going to have your, you know, your GPA on it, right?
Nope.
And it's just like, but it's that internal pressure, that internal intensity that you got to have to sort of realize that I might have to lean on that GPA that I earned when I was a student athlete. So that's very, very important to be able to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, I'm just going to continue with that. If you're going to grad school, your GPA matters. But really, like, unless you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor, your GPA isn't all that important. To me, and this goes for all of life. I've got 3 little girls at home, 8, 6, and 4 years old. And it's the same message I'll tell them that I would tell my college students. Your attitude and your effort are going to determine the opportunities you get and what happens. If you bust your ass, and you got a good attitude and you give good effort, but you get a 3.0 or a 2.8 and professors know you're working hard, they're going to give you opportunities.
Yeah.
If you're an a-hole and you get a 4.0, people are going to give you opportunities. It's that attitude and that effort that's really going to open doors for you. And if that attitude and effort is a 3.9, outstanding. If that attitude and effort is a 3.2 or a 3.0, so be it. You know, you're still going to get opportunities because you're a good person and you're working hard.
You said something that I've never thought about, but it was very important, is your teachers, your counselors, the people who you're working for, intern, they have to see how important it is to you. And I think for a lot of people, they go through school, they go through jobs, and some people are just gifted, right?
Yeah.
And things come easy. But I think whether if you're that type of person or if things are more of a struggle and you really have to work hard, it is so important that you show people that you're grinding, that you show people that you're trying to get better, that you're trying to improve, that you are accepting constructive criticism. That is something that you just said that's going to get young people, even adults, to, you know, to create opportunities. And that's all what it's about, is creating opportunities. Talk a little bit about your role at USD now.
Yeah.
Obviously working with student athletes. Let us know who you're working with, and in terms of sport, not necessarily players, but who you're working with, and what are some daily things that you feel that student athletes could learn from your work that you already do?
Yeah. So my role, I'm a academic counselor. I teach a class for first-year student athletes on success strategies and leadership, life skills, then do general academic counseling to make sure our students are on track to graduate and staying eligible, and then career development. So helping students with, you know, prepare for whatever's after their sport and making sure they got the skills and the background ready to get a job. And then also do some diversity and inclusion education within our academic, within our athletic department as well. But I mean, what's most important that for our student athletes is to develop outside of being an athlete. You know, you put all this effort into being an athlete, and I'm not saying reduce that. 100%. Give at being an athlete all you have, but that doesn't mean you can't develop outside of being an athlete.
Yes.
Because if you find experiences, if you find internships, jobs, professors, research, anything, you're going to feel more comfortable with that part of your identity. So when athlete goes away, like it did to me, you've got something to lean on. And it could be, you know, you took an engineering class and you loved electrical engineering. Suddenly, student football player A is no longer a football player, but he's electrical engineer. And you'll always be an athlete,
Yeah.
you know, in part of your life. But
Mm-hmm.
finding those other experiences and building on that, developing more than just an athlete, like you mentioned, LeBron said, more than an athlete, that is huge. And that's what's going to help you after your sport.
Huge, man. More than an athlete. We could go on and on about that.
All day.
Just, you know, it's just that concept of, you know, your athletic shelf life is very, very small. You know, those that are very lucky to go on to play at the highest levels for 8 to 10 years, you know, this, that, and the other, like, there's got to be levels of interest. You got to know as a student athlete what you're good at. You got to know what makes you tick. I say as early as high school, because that's going to kind of give you some sort of direction on what you want to major in. You get to college, there's internships. I thoroughly encourage internships. I know some student athletes say they don't have time, practice over the summer, but you got to make it work.
Yeah.
Because there are too many student athletes that graduate from 4-year universities without any job experience, and it's very hard to get a good job when you don't have anything to put on your resume except that you work at the little basketball or football camp at your high school, you know? So very, very, very important. Very, very important. My favorite part of the interview, we're almost done, man. It's the overtime bonus questions. These are the questions that I don't think I gave you.
Nope. All right. I'm nervous. All right, let's do it.
So, if you could go back and relive one day in your athletic career, what would that day be?
Ooh.
Don't have to be long answers.
Man, I mean, the day I scored a game-winning touchdown for the Dolphins, this moment right there, that's when I went from being nobody to being relevant on SportsCenter, #1 on the SportsCenter top 10, like absolute highlight of my life.
Man, woo! If you could have one message on your headstone, what would it be on your headstone?
Man, that's a loaded question to spring on me. I mean, I'm torn between, like, you know, being the importance of my family, being a good dad, husband, brother, son, all that. And then I preach attitude and effort. And I want to be known as somebody that always gives good attitude and effort. So
there's a combination of those.
Greg Camarillo gave great attitude and effort.
That's it. No, that's perfect. How do you define greatness?
Greatness. All right. So, oh man, that's tough. I mean, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and just define success, because I believe if you're successful, you're great in your own world.
Okay.
So success to me is that feeling that at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you know you gave your all. Success is not a position. Success is not a final destination. Success is knowing that I had a goal and I'm working the best I can. I gave the very best I have towards that goal. And that's living authentically. That's living aligned with your values. Did I give the best Greg that I could have today? And to me, that's being successful. And it's never done. If the minute you think, oh, I'm successful, and I stop, it's a wrap. So greatness to me, success to me, is being able to look yourself in the eyes, in the mirror, and saying, you know what, I gave my all today.
It's an everyday thing. It's an every hour thing. You know, there's going to be things that we do wrong, that we mess up, but we got to keep on going and plugging away, man. If that's not a life lesson there, man, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
Who is your all-time, I don't care, Pop Warner days, high school, college, NFL, who's your all-time favorite teammate?
Wow, my all-time favorite teammate. I'll go with the teammate that did the most for me, and that was Chad Pennington, was my quarterback in Miami. And so he just showed up, instant leader. Literally the day he showed up, was traded to Miami, got the group together, told us we weren't working well enough, got us together, and then, I mean, he made me the receiver I became because of his leadership as a quarterback. So, I mean, I had guys I was closer to, had guys I had more fun with, but the biggest impact on me as a teammate would be Chad Pennington.
That's what's up, man. Marshall University,
Yeah.
Chad the Rad. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Last question here. When it's all said and done, how do you, Greg Camarillo, want to be remembered?
For having an impact. So, you know, I in my career now, I enjoy it because I get to impact lives daily. When I'm done, when that headstone comes out that says great attitude and effort, I want people to gather and be like, Greg impacted my life in a positive way. So I want to be known as someone that impacts other lives.
No, that's big, man. And that's, as educators, it's something that, like, there's no greater reward than having somebody say, you helped me. You gave me an opportunity. You believed in me.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's no money. There's no, like, thank you gift. It's just that verbal thank you, bro. And it's why we do what we do as educators, man. It's
100%.
having that impact. It's so, so important. And oftentimes, to be quite honest with you, man, we impact people that we don't even know, that we'll never know. And it's just having that mentality of, who am I going to impact today?
Yep.
Who am I going to change? Who's going to remember me today for me, blessing them, or for me helping them, or for me showing them something? And like I said, man, it's sometimes where I'll run into people back in high school. I run into people, college, and say, man, I remember when you used to do this. Perfect example. When I was in college, man, you know them walk-on times, man. Hey, times were rough. We were struggling. So, for me, my little hustle, I was Uber and Lyft before Uber and Lyft. I had a little pickup. I had a pickup truck. And I used to take cats to the Oakland airport, San Francisco airport. I had my little rate. And cats always tell me, man, like, yo, I remember, man, you were grinding. Like, nobody gave you nothing. You earned it. Like, there were times where, I'd be trying to sneak in at training table and the coach would bust me.
I've been there, man. I know that exact feeling. I've been there.
So, yeah, man. So, man, that's so, so important. Impact. Thank you for mentioning that. My favorite part of the interview, we're winding down to the very end. I appreciate you. It's past 6, but this is the last one. It's called the Oscar or Grammy moment.
All right.
This is your opportunity. You get the Oscar, you get the Grammy. They call your name, you're walking out, you get to the stage, they give you the mic, you pull out your piece of paper. This is your opportunity to give people their roses, to thank them, to shout out organizations that you work with. It's your mic, man. Just take it away.
Yeah, man. So I would do this before every NFL game, and I would go out super early. I'd walk around before warming up. I'd walk around the stadium. I'd look up just in awe that I was there. But it was like my moment of reflection. I'd sit down. I'd put my headphones on so no one would talk to me, and I would just reflect on all the people that helped me get to that point. All those people that had an impact on me, like you and I try to do for current students. And the list. It was pretty much the same people each time, but it would start with, my wife for the support, my family for the support. That would be my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my high school coaches, my teachers, everyone that supported me to get there. Because, we talk about self-made people. There might be some people out there that like really you had to grind and get it done yourself, but most people got help along the way, like 99% of the people. So I didn't get to the NFL because I just worked hard. I got there because I worked hard, just go down. Coaches, counselors, everybody that had believed in me along the way. And I can't remember the full list, and I won't bore you with the full list, but that's I felt the need to give gratitude for being in that position to everyone that helped me out along the way.
No, that's huge, man. That's huge. Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you sharing your story. I think your story is very, very inspirational. And,
Thank you.
For the young cats, to be able, where can young people reach out to you? Like social media, like what are your social media handles?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, most active on Twitter at Catch Camarillo. Happy to engage with anyone. Yeah, find me on there. Shoot me a message if you need something more personal. But you know, otherwise find me on Twitter at Catch Camarillo. Matt Doyle in the building right there. Good to see Matt Doyle.
Lancer, St. Francis Lancer, that's my boy. Shout out to Matt Doyle, man. I hope you're doing well. Great win against USC last week, man. Good luck for the rest of the season. Man, Greg, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. At some point, we got to link up, whether you come out here to Los Angeles or when I'm planning a San Diego trip, so I definitely want to get the family together at some point. We're due, you know, to head out there. There's a burger place that I really like.
Hodad's?
Yes!
There you go.
That's the spot. Yes. How did you know what I was talking
about?
I'll
treat you as famous, man. I'll treat you to a burger when you come out here.
Okay. Well, man, I appreciate you, man. Best of luck this school year. And there is a young man that's at USD. He's on the football team. I'm going to have him reach out to you. He's from Valley Christian High School.
Yeah.
He grew up in the East Palo Alto area.
Yeah.
A sophomore.
I know
he's a sophomore.
I know who you're talking about. I connected with him pre-COVID. I got to reconnect with him.
Excellent.
But yeah, I know I got my eyes on him.
Excellent. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you again, man.
David, appreciate you, my man.
All right. Take care. There we have it, folks. Former NFL veteran, 8-year career, Stanford Cardinal wide receiver, currently works at USD in the athletic department. He's a professor as well, teaches some classes out there. Mr. Greg Camarillo, man, a tremendous story. If you weren't able to catch this story, make sure you watch it in the IGTV channel, man. Very inspirational. I'm glad that I was able to speak with him, man, because he talked about a lot of things that were very, very important in terms of regarding you know, the student athlete experience in high school and college, as well as at the elite level of the NFL. So I really, really, really appreciate his sharing his story. Thank you again, once again, for those folks who are tuning in. This is the 39th episode of the Student First Athlete Second IG Live. I started this thing January 2021. So 39 guests, whether they're current, former student athletes, collegiate, professional student athletes, folks who work in professional sports or college sports. There is a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of people sharing their stories, a lot of people sharing their templates of success. So I strongly encourage you to go on the David Watts Consulting YouTube channel and just flip through, find guests that you might be interested in and learn their story, hear their story, heed their advice. It's so, so important. So next week, we have a special guest. I'm really working on it. Former teammate of mine. I believe he's like a 3 or 4 time Super Bowl NFL champion for the New England Patriots, Mr. Tully Banacane. Fingers crossed, hopefully we can get Tully on next week so he can talk about his experience playing for the Patriots, going to UC Berkeley, this, that, and the other. So always reach out to me. I can be reached out to, obviously, Instagram at David Watts Consulting, Twitter at DWC Info, Facebook, David Watts Consulting, TikTok, David Watts Consulting, LinkedIn, David Watts Consulting. My goal is to inform, inspire, and motivate student athletes of all sports, of all genders. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Always remember, student first, athlete second. Peace.